loading up DNA for that one, and we'll deliver that one in early next year. We'll deliver it to Firefly. So both of those seem like they're going along. I have pictures of both of the landers, and they look great. And the teams are doing awesome jobs on building them. And these will be the first two. I think there's like 7 companies, 7 or maybe more commercial companies building moon landers that are all robotic moon landers. People don't go on them. And one was an Israeli. It attempted to land on the moon 2 years ago, and that was the first attempt of one of these new commercial landers, and it crashed into the moon. But then these next ones with Astrobotic and then Firefly will be 2 of the next initial commercial landers. And essentially what's happening is NASA helped fund these. I think they put maybe $2.4 billion into funding robotic lander companies and to stimulate these companies so that there is regular delivery to the moon in preparation for astronauts going back, which is planned for 2025, and then really for permanent settlement. Yeah, so that's the updates on the mission. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask?
Milo.
I have a question.
Yeah.
With respect to the DNA, what is the moisture to prevent it from freezing and the temperatures it'll be exposed to on the moon? And if it does freeze, will it hurt it or not?
Yes. So it is considered freeze-dried and should have 0 moisture essentially. And moisture does degrade DNA. And part of how it degrades it is if a radiation particle hits a water molecule, it excites the water molecule and it breaks up the DNA, and that causes a lot more damage and is a lot more likely if radiation hits one of the particles of the DNA. So it's a lot more stable if you don't have, moisture.
Thank you.
For sure. You're welcome.
I have another question too, if I may.
Sure.
You know, the stuff of previously some years later, when a cure is found, is the DNA going to make?
I think we lost Ben. Gonna shoot him a text. Alrighty, he should be rejoining in a moment.
Oh, thank you.
Good one.
I like it. I like all that kind of stuff. I'm kind of a space nut, you know, but I love science and I love the prospects for science in the future. And of course, obviously that's a big part of it. You know, we got to go somewhere, you know.
It's incredible. Are you, and I'm sorry, I'm not qualified to answer that question that you asked, Ben, but is anyone here watching For All Mankind on Apple TV?
No, I had.
Oh, I can't recommend it enough. It's sort of like a science fiction show about what happened if we kept expanding our space program in the 70s, and I don't want to spoil anything for you, but they do a really great job of thinking about what could have happened and what could happen in the future.
Wow. What do you think about the new the Webb Space Telescope? When I look at the first pictures that come back from that, and I hear them talking about the distances and the amount of time, is very likely that most of the stuff we're seeing, it doesn't exist anymore because of the amount of time it's taken the images and the light to get here. I find it hard to wrap my mind around that.
It
It's
is
fu-
hard.
it's I mean, it's great to see all that stuff, it stimulates the imagination, but that it's no longer there is hard to believe. Something like that could not be there anymore.
It's
Well,
very hard to conceptualize, and also when
Yes.
Could
when
I
you talk
add
about the
something?
sheer numbers. Yeah, of course.
It's not necessarily that those objects that you're seeing in deep time and deep space are not there. Some may not be there. Supernovas, collision. Those stars have moved on the main sequence on the Hertzsprung-Russell graph. They've changed, they've evolved over time. So while some of those objects may still be there, if you looked at them in real time, they might be in another stage, let's say a stellar stage of evolution. That's all I have to say.
Well, thanks.
Great insight. Thank you.
Do you suppose there's anybody watching us from out there?
Yes.
We're looking at them.
Oh,
Possibly.
yeah.
How to be.
Has to be.
Oh, and Ben's back.
If anybody out there is looking, they won't see us yet.
Already here.
Yeah, who thinks intelligent life out there? Who thinks we'll discover it in our lifetimes? Yeah.
Repeat that.
Who thinks we'll discover intelligent life out there during our
I think we
lifetimes?
already have.
Yeah.
On that.
Well, we're one example, so one example of probably many.
Many, many, many.
And then there's always the added question of what are we considering intelligent? What's the bar
Right.
for that? If we were to find some sort of aquatic life on Europa,
Right.
I mean, that's an incredible discovery, but not quite the aliens that we see in science fiction.
For intelligence, I would go through some kind of consciousness criteria that would make it intelligent, there'd be some level of self-awareness.
Criteria.
Any
Yeah, I
other?
I think that in the big picture, that the Earth. I love the movie, the original movie, The Day the Earth Stood Still, and the reason that I really like that movie is because it speaks to where the Earth is now and where others are, and that if we hope to achieve that ascension to that level of intellect where we can concentrate on things that are much more important than the things we concentrate on today. In other words, looking beyond ourselves and beyond our planet. There are a lot of people who do, and Albert Einstein, famously, imagination is more important than knowledge. That's so true. It's never
Right.
truer than it is today.
It's funny you mentioned The Day the Earth Stood Still, because the scientist character played by Sam Jaffe in the movie, the original movie, which far exceeds the remake, was a sort of quasi Einstein, or at least based on Einstein. And recently I looked at that. It was a late 1955 photograph of study in Princeton on the day he notebooks. And it's kind of funny because in The Day the Earth Stood Still, Sam Jaffe's study in the movie is very similar to the one in Princeton. So it was modeled after Einstein. That's just a little bit of trivia.
Yeah, well, everybody has their heroes or their people that they think are special, and certainly the word hero is used a lot, but to me it means thinkers. It means thinkers, and then it goes to the next step where the thinkers then transfer to the engineers who make their thoughts and their hopes and their dreams become reality. You know,
Good way.
in many ways.
That's very true.
What about did life start here and evolve here, or do you think the basic building blocks or some sort of seed came here from externally?
Yeah.
Panspermia, you know, it's possible, but you know, that's like the equation. That's like the question of, you know, who created God? It's a endless. You know, you can push off evolution of the Earth from outer space, but then where did those spores come from originally? So, I mean, Fred Hoyle kind of pioneered panspermia back in the well, actually going back to the 1950s. But I don't know. Me personally, I think life evolved here. I think we had the right chemistry. That doesn't mean planets aren't seeded. You know, I've seen speculations about, well, are we actually Martians? Did life come from Mars first? And I mean, that's just speculation. It's interesting. It's kind of interesting thought experiments. But you know, as far as my knowledge of the origin of life science is, most origin of life scientists are not looking beyond the Earth for the origin of our life, other than, you know, we had the right ingredients here with the long time and conditions that would, you know, if you want to call it abiogenesis, you know, how life came from lifelessness.
And why is always the question. You know, why? I'm one of those science fiction guys, a fan of science fiction, Star Trek and such, simply because of the imagination that it invokes. But I also titanium is a non. I can't notice that they're. No, wait a minute. Mag woods aren't going to work on non-ferrous.
Woven in the titanium nation somehow.
I would, you know, I'd say, wait a minute there, Mr. Earthbound land lover guy, you know. A question about a DNA, if anybody would like to field it, it may be too technical for me, but DNA, we're hearing that people can have their DNA tested and they're looking for predispositions for certain diseases and such. Is there the possibility that anything could be done about a predisposition in DNA, chemically or genetically at this particular point in time, or is it just preventative medical care that such as certain cancers, having a certain organ removed or that sort of thing, or heart disease? Does anybody know anything about that? Is there a way to change the DNA to remove that little bitty piece of strand?
They're doing this.
So there is, and just to note that we're not doing this at LifeShip. We're not actually sequencing the DNA or messing with it. But to your question, the main tool used in genomics is CRISPR, where you cut out a snip of DNA and you can put in another snip. And a human has already been cloned in China, and it got a lot of negative pushback from the scientific community. But a human was cloned. It might have been a set of twins. And what happened is they removed a snip of DNA that would make a person susceptible to the AIDS virus. And so they removed that out of the person and then put the DNA in an egg, a fertilized egg, and a human was born that is immune to AIDS. And so, we should be messing with our DNA for sure.
Oh. They actually cloned a human being.
Yes, there was a clone
Wow.
human in China.
Wow.
Put me down for a
I don't
higher
agree
IQ
with
if you guys ever get to around where you can do stuff like that. I can stand it. I'd be happy with a few more points so I can understand some of the concepts that I don't understand now.
Send in the clones.
That's
Yeah,
right.
send in the clone.
So how about we do breakout rooms of like 3 to 4 people, Chris, and then that way everyone gets a short chance to share something they're excited about space, or a memory of space, or why they're excited about the mission, or whatever you want to share. But then everyone gets a chance to do a short share, and maybe like 3 to 5 minutes each, and we'll do about 15 minutes total.
Awesome. That sounds like a plan. I'm gonna break us out now.
Hey, Pankaj. You are muted. Pankaj? Hey, how you doing? Are you do you want to go off mute, and I'd love to know where you are or what excites you about space. You're still on mute. It's just it appears it's just the two of us in the room.
This meeting is being recorded. Recording has stopped.